5, 4, 3, 2.
Hey, good evening, everybody. This is Jeff. It is time to get back into hockey. It's the new year. I'm ready to rock and roll. I am ready to get rolling. I'm super excited. As you can see, new room, old room remodeled, new floors, new walls, new lighting system, new desk, new monitors. Life's good right now. This is exactly what I was hoping for when we did all this, and I'm ready to roll. We got a lot of stuff to talk about tonight. Combines. We're going to hit it to combines. We'll get to that, but I want to hit something first that I saw it on the line today, and I thought it was pretty interesting, and I thought maybe we'd talk it through and see what you think, because a lot of times, it takes more than one person to form the right opinion. Maybe I'm off on this, but we'll get to it. We've got a lot of stuff I want to cover, Probably the biggest things I want to cover today is, of course, the combine issue, but I just want to get caught up to get rolling into the new year. You guys ready? Let's do this. Let's have some fun. I don't even know if I can roll our old intro because we've changed so many things, so I'm not even going to try to do it. Oh yeah, well, let's see if it works.
5, 4, 3, 2.
No, didn't work. Wrong one. New buttons, new panel with new buttons, so I got to learn all the new stuff. Anyway, you know how this works. Wherever you're at, let us know. Put some questions in the comments. I'm seeing you coming in already. Maria, good to see you. I don't want to talk about what the playoffs are going on. Greg, it's great to see you in Amherstburg, Ontario. Anybody knows where that is? You go across the bridge from Detroit. You turn right, you'll find it. It'll pop up in front of you. Scott's on from Sioux Falls. Good to see you. Kent's on from Washington. Good to see you. Got a lot of people. I'll say hi to as many as I can as we go on. It should be a really good night. Let's start with the topic that I thought you'd most be interested in besides the combines. I know that's the big one. Okay. I know that's the big one. We got plenty of time to talk about that, but I wanted to share something with you, and let me see if I can do this right here. This is screen share. Boom. And there we go. All right. So this is a piece that Ray, well, first of all, it came from online. And anytime I see anything online, I get a little bit concerned to see if it's real or not. However, I'm going to walk through this a little bit with you, and I want to hit it point by point. So I'll be jumping back and forth on this. But first of all, it says former NHL star Ray Ferraro was asked to talk to a group of parents, blah, blah, blah. Here's what he said to the parents. Minor hockey is out of control in terms of parents chasing the dream of their kids instead of the kids deciding on their own how passionate they are for it and how bad they want it. Okay, I'm going to let that one stand. Everybody's got their opinion on minor hockey. If you think it's out of control, that's your opinion. I personally don't. I think it's probably the calmest I've seen it in years, and I also think that we have so many more things controlling hockey now with just the fact that social media. When people are out of control and they get put their picture gets put up on social media, that's a deterrent. Just the fact that we're so much more educated, we work so much harder as coaches. I don't think it's out of control, but let's let that one stay. The next one on there is, in the last 10 years, only 21 kids who either played for, and these are two different leagues, have appeared in at least one NHL game. The point is, if you're banking on your son collected in an NHL paycheck to solidify his or your financial future, you seriously need to stop and come up with a new plan now. Can't argue with that statement. Okay. Clearly, it's only happened a couple of times in the history of sports where a superstar it blows up to the point where the parents become just as famous as the player. And, the couple of instances are, Walter Gretzky, boom, Serena Williams and her sister and their father, Michael Jackson. No, I'm just kidding on that one. But the other one, it would be Tiger Woods. Their parents became super famous and they reaped the reward and they pushed their kids pretty hard. But, there's a lot of ways to make money in hockey without going to the NHL. Okay. You don't have to be the president of the United States to become a great politician and move up the ranks in politics. You don't have to be a neurosurgeon to be a great doctor. There's plenty of ways to do that. And you know what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to put this on a different screen share so that I can see you. You can see me and we can still talk about this. There we go. Okay, here's another one. The odds of going to the pros are extremely low, but the odds of having to find a career and a job to pay the bills, to be a husband and a father are extremely high. Okay, let's stop right there. The odds of going to the NHL are limited, okay? You can go hiking without having to climb Mount Everest. You can make money playing pro hockey anywhere in the world now. There's Chinese leagues, there's Japanese leagues, there's European leagues, there's Russian leagues, there's American leagues, there's Canadian leagues, and there's numerous layers in each of those areas. The NHL is not the only place to go. I wrote an article on this. If you go to my website, juniorhockeyadvisor.com, I did this a couple years ago, but I compared it to becoming a doctor. You know, a lot of the things, and I don't have any problem with this former pro player. I don't know him. But my point on this is this is that dream killer mentality that just crushes us. You know, there's a different mindset you could take instead of saying you're never going to make it pro, so put all your eggs in the basket of education and go in a different route. Try to find a regular job. Okay, if we told that to everybody that played the violin that wanted to be in an orchestra, or if we told that to everybody that was acting, or if we told that to everybody that was in any other kind of profession, where would we be as a society? You'll never be an actress. You know, you might as well just learn how to cook and clean, or you might as well just take a job as an accountant, okay? Because you're never going to make it as an actress. I'm not sure. We don't do this to kids in any other area when they're little kids. When you're in that 8 to 12, 8 to 14-year-old, and the school counselor talks to you, they don't come in and say, you're never going to do that. They might say, well, you need to work on your grades if you're really going to do that. That's going to take a lot of work. You want to be a senator? That's going to take a lot of work. You want to be a movie star? That's going to take a lot of work. So does being a hockey player. There's no difference. There's absolutely no difference in the mindset. And this is a mindset issue. This has nothing to do with the reality. This is about dream killing. You know, and we go on here and it says, parents need to enjoy the ride while you haven't fully agree. Your son's minor hockey days end too quickly, and oftentimes people are regretting what they did not know when they did, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I don't argue with that. As a parent who devotes time and money to your son, the only right you have to ask, okay, here's one. As a parent who devotes time and money to your son, the only right you have is to ask if they give their best, not how much ice time they get, if they're on the power play, and who their winger and D partner is. Okay, remember that one, because we're going to come back to that one. Okay, don't pay for power skating, drylands training, skill development, and expect your son and daughter to score 50 goals. If you decide to invest in the extras, do it because your son or daughter asked for it and wants to improve and has a smile on their face. First of all, what kid has a smile on their face every day? What kid goes to power skating every day with a smile on their face? There are some, but the majority of them, part of our job as parents is saying, okay, at first they might go, yeah, Mom, I really want to do that. Dad, I really want to do that. I really want to take that skill class. Then the third Sunday, they have to get up at 5 a.m. in the morning to get there. Maybe they're a little sleepy, maybe they're a little groggy. Oh, geez, just go back to bed. We don't want to force you. That's that mentality that just doesn't work. We're parents. If we're parents, our job is to help them understand that when they make a commitment to something, they show up and do it. This mentality of, oh my gosh, if your son and daughter doesn't want to do it, let's just say, no, they don't have to. I get the point. You can't line up 10 events a night and go from your team practice to a power skating instructor to a skills instructor, then jump on the ice with the older team, then jump on the ice with the younger team. And you know, that's already insanity. That's not what we're talking about here at all. What we're talking about here is the fact that there is a positive way to go about all this. So let's set that one aside too. 12 months of hockey is wrong. Organized skill sessions, tryouts, spring hockey. 12 months of hockey is not wrong. If you just said above there, if your kid's smiling and wants to do it, he should do it. The mentality of a kid wanting to play 12 months a year, that's fine. Let him do it. It doesn't mean you have to be on some kind of intense league. But I know plenty of kids that as soon as their league ends, they want to play in the 3-on-3 league. They want to play in the spring league. They want to do showcases. They want to go to a camp. Okay, 12 months of hockey. The reason why pros, now this is something that just drives me nuts. We've got iconic pros out there, and you know the names, the Gretzkys and the Orrs. that live in their experience. They say, oh, geez, I didn't play hockey year round when I was growing up. That's because hockey didn't exist year round when they grew up. They didn't have rinks to play in the spring and summer. Ice was shut down and ice started back up in the fall. So they give you their experience and how great it was back in the good old days. Well, in the good old days, if it still existed that way, it would be nice to have a 4-month season of hockey and then a 4-month season where everybody, just left the sport alone. But that's not the reality we live in. We all know that. So if a kid wants to play the trombone year round, are you going to tell them no? We only play the trombone in this house 4 months a year. You can't take a lesson. You can't be in an orchestra. You can't be in the jazz band. You can't do any marching band in the spring and summer or fall. We only do it for 4 months, and then we're going to shut her down. Then you got to just wait and rest and recuperate. I don't want you to burn out on that tuba or that trombone. We don't say that about math. If a kid wants to go to a math camp or a chess camp or any other thing that they'd like to do as kids, we don't limit that. If a kid's in a book club, if a kid loves to read, if a kid excels at reading and just devours everything, I'm hard-pressed to believe that somebody would say, you know what, we need to take 2 or 3 months off from reading. That just isn't good for you. I don't believe in the mentality of telling anybody that they can't do something that they should. It's not my job to tell you how much you do. Now, there's crazy, and we all know what crazy is. We're not talking about the crazies. We're just talking about being rational and reasonable about what you do. It's your choice as a family. Somebody like this is dream killing. This is something that people look at this and they're praising this online saying, attaboy, that's what I believe. Do you really? Do you really think somebody else should be mandating what you do with your child and tell you how to raise your child? Not in my book. Okay, another one. Coaches are coaches. We all know the game when we think it should be done a certain way. How come we never tell our kids' math teacher how to teach calculus, but we think as parents we have the right to tell a hockey coach how much time and whom our kids should be playing with? Okay, first of all, we do have parent-teacher conferences, and most times with coaches, they're not really getting, sitting down with the parents as much as they want. But I fully agree with that parents don't have the right, but you do. You have the right of choice every year if you're going to go back to that coach. You have a right of choice if you're going to stay in that league with that team and that organization. You have the right to do a lot of things, and you have a right to question a lot of things to the coach. What's going on in the locker room, what's going on with development. There's a lot of things you can ask. It doesn't mean you have to be on the ice time thing. Honestly, that's so blown out of proportion on parents that are jumping on ice time issues, because that does happen. But once again, that falls in that crazy category, that 10% or whatever that number is. When you evaluate your kids each season, never base it on how many banners they won, what provincial they won, what tournaments they won, and ask yourself, what improved from September to April? What did he learn or improve on, including non-hockey stuff? Evaluate the season besides wins and losses and gains and improvements. Just let them play, learn, and develop. Now, I can't argue with just let them play and learn and develop. But once again, as a parent, you're going to be hard-pressed to go through this list of things and actually live in competitive hockey. This list is great if you're a house player, that your mentality is, you know what, it's our second or it's our third sport. We got a lot of kids in the family. Our budget fits for house. We play house, and then we move on to lacrosse, or we move on to tennis. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But what we talk about here is advancement to juniors, advancement from juniors to college. The mindset is, if you're not prepared to ostracize yourself as a parent, as a player, if you're a good player on a team, it's sometimes everybody's going to part ways. You're going to have to make choices along the way. You're going to have to say, I have to move my kid. My kid needs to play somewhere else. You might not be making the choice. It could be a junior program asking you, or a 15 team asking you to play for them. But the group, the herd's over here, and maybe your son's better. Maybe he's right in the middle. It doesn't matter. They all are out looking for themselves, and it's easy to point fingers and to try to knock people down. But you have to have the mentality that you got to take care of your own. Your job is to be selfish as a parent. Your job is to push as a parent. That's my opinion. Please don't think that I'm preaching to you, but in my opinion, it's our job to push. It's our job to make sure they get there. It's our job to teach them responsibility. It's our job to teach them commitments. Now, I'm done. Soapbox is over. What do you think? Are you on the same page with me on this? Let me know. Let me see some comments on this. See if other people are agreeing with what I'm saying, or if I'm just completely out of my mind when I talk about this. I agree with people that, you can see out of control parents. I'm not talking about that. If my kid wants to play spring hockey and he had a great season and he's got his grades up and he decides now my kids are all in college, but if he wants to play spring hockey and all things are equal and he wants to do it, why not? It doesn't mean he can't play golf. I have 2 kids. One's in college right now playing sports. Another one graduated after playing, hockey in college and winning a national title. Both of them growing up played multiple sports. They were golfers. They played avid golf, avid tennis. My daughter played field hockey. And they both, when they were younger, dabbled in other sports. My daughter played softball. She played lacrosse, tried other things. The son's the same way. He played on the varsity lacrosse team his senior year. He played on the golf team up until his senior year. He wanted to try lacrosse, actually became a starter in lacrosse just because it correlated so well with hockey. Wanted to give it a shot. His buddies played. Never once stopped him from continually doing hockey all year long. Hey, you get out of school at 2 o'clock, 2:30. Even if you're playing on a varsity sport, you're done at 5:36. That still gives you plenty of time to play hockey or play on a 3-on-3 or whatever else in the spring. So this is the kind of thing that it drives me crazy to see people that think that these kind of posts help anything. This is a dream killer post. When people tell you that they're shaming you if you put more time and effort into it. They're shaming you if your kid wants to move up the ladder. They're shaming you in this way. And this is what this post is doing. And I don't even know if the person that put this up knew that or thinks the same way I do. Let's look at some comments. Let's see if you guys are on the same page with me or not. Let's see. I'm going to look for a negative one and see if anybody is saying thing. Okay, I can't, so I'll just go on to this one. Melissa says, this kind of post drives me nuts. My kid loves to play in practice and training. He drives it. I let him decide within reason. Right. But if he gets up, I'm sure, Melissa, if he gets up on a Saturday morning and says, I don't want to go, I want to watch cartoons, I bet you that kid's out in the car in the back seat with his bag, like it or not, because he made a commitment. That's my point on this. Let's see what Scott says. I will always ask first. If my son says no, I'll ask for his reason why. Sometimes I'll agree, sometimes I disagree, and explain why. It's interesting. I don't have a problem with that. There's some a little bit of old Greek philosophy, some teaching philosophies going on there with questioning. I don't have a problem with that. Melissa says, my son would train 6 or 7 days a week. Okay, let's see if this is one. I read this earlier and did not agree with what it said. My kid's not a big scorer. He's playing the USPHL Premier. Juniors as a rookie, plays lacrosse. Good for you. I'm glad you say it. You see it that way. Yeah, I got it. USPHL Premier. Okay, here we go. We got some. Let's see if I'm looking for one that disagrees this as much. We have a 15-year who started hockey late, and he's very intense about hockey. You know what? Let's go back to my other screen here. So there we go. He wants to train constantly. He wants as much as he can get it. Absolutely loves the process. He is on the honor. I lost that on my screen. Jump that back up. He's on the honor roll. We get lots of parent shaming, thinking that we're pushing him. But honestly, if he's dedicated this much time, I get it. Okay, we're okay with him walking away. Why do we worry about them burning out? Or I agree. See, this is the part that I don't understand. Raise your hand if you played an instrument in middle school or elementary school. Raise your hand if by the time you got to high school, you didn't play an instrument anymore. Okay? It's okay to drop a sport. It's okay for all of us to understand that you're going to try things in life and it just might not be your thing. I played the cello. Okay? When I became the target for snowballs on the way home from school and I had to use that big cello because everybody thought it was really fun to hear the bong off the cello, off the flimsy case of the cello when they threw a snowball at me, I realized it was time to move on. I had to get something else in life. I had to do something else and find something else, another passion. But hey, I loved the cello up to that point. And yes, I did lessons. Yes, I did the 3-piece or the 5-piece and the orchestra and the little jazz thing. We had a lot of little groups like that. And I was pretty much into it. But you move on. Do I regret it? No, in fact, I love the fact that I did that. My family thinks it's funny that I did that. But we move on, just like sports. there's just too much tied into thinking that, it's all end all be all on the sport here. Let's look at a couple more comments and then we've got to move on. We got to get into the combines. Okay. Let's see here. All right, let's just look at this one. I don't know who this one's from. My son played all the sports and loved it. What he did lose out on by not playing the spring hockey, etc., in our small community is making the connections with coaches. But at 16, all equaled out by the end, and he is a better athlete for it. Nothing wrong with that at all. Nothing wrong with that at all. So let's move on from this, but I think you get my point on this. My point on this is it's extremely easy to poke at other people. It's extremely easy to put these virtuous posts up there about how idyllic it would be if all parents were angels and their kids were angels, and if all parents just let their kids find their own way, and if all parents just stood behind their children and supported them if they fell, but never once was up in front saying, come on, I'll lead you down the path. These virtue, this, never, enough. Let's get on with the rest of the conversation tonight. Okay, tonight we're talking about combines. Now, first of all, is this a combine or not? I put this picture up there, and I need somebody that knows much more about this than me. When I look at this, I don't know if this is a combine or not. And you tell me, is this a combine? Let's see where it went. Is this a combine? Is that a combine or a thrasher? I don't know enough about. I thought it was a combine. I took the picture and thought it was a combine. If it's not a combine, I'd love to hear, somebody that's right over the border from Detroit that turns right, that lives out in the middle of farm country, might be able to give me the answer to that. That's a harvester. Okay, so what's the difference between a harvester and a combine? I thought that a combine was the main piece of tool, and then okay, if somebody says it's a farm combine, another one says it's a farm combine. Okay, it's a combine. I'm taking it as a combine. We had horses when I grew up, and we had dogs, and I baled hay for the farmers in the area. I never got into the combines or the actual, agricultural side, except for cutting the hay, putting the hay in rows, running the baler over it, putting the bale. This is back when you had to pick up the little bales. They didn't have these, technology, roll them up and let the machines do it. You had to carry that stuff around. That was some hard work, man. But it was awesome work. I loved it. Anyway, enough of that. We can go on. Combines. When we talk about combines, let's just kind of go big picture first, and then we'll walk through. Please keep your comments coming in and your questions coming in. We can help try to decipher any of this that you're having problems with. So essentially, what is a combine first? A combine is essentially, it's a few skates put together with some scrimmages over a course of anywhere from 2 to 4 days that allows a team to take a look at you, a team or a league, teams or league. So you'll see a team have a combine, or they'll call it a pre-draft skate, where they have you come out, they run a couple practices. After the practices, they run a couple scrimmages, and they usually give you some kind of actual exit interview. So you can see that in different leagues where the league sponsors it. You can see a combine where multiple teams in a league, like you'll see this sometimes where NCDC teams or USPHL teams, even North American Hockey League teams, they will run multiple teams in a city. They'll have a pre-draft combine, whatever you want to call it. They'll run it together. They'll skate 4 to 6 teams in the combine, watch the players, and then the players move on. The USHL sponsors their own, league combine. The NAL runs their own several combines themselves. Most leagues run some kind of combines from the league side. That means the league is sponsoring it, and then the league offers incentives. For example, the league that I participate in is the North American Hockey League. Most of you know that I work for one of the teams in the league as a player development director. The team that I work for gets incentivized just like the rest of the teams in the league to have scouts, coaches, management, owners attend these combines and watch players. And it's very important for the organization, the league itself, to have participation from all the teams. So they incentivize them. Different kinds of incentives go along with this. In some leagues, they might get incentivized just by paying the assistant coaches to show up, paying the scout to show up. The league pays for the team scouts or coaches to show up. They might get draft picks, or they might get tenders. There might be some kind of incentive there for them to participate. In that way, nobody can say that, oh, I went to a combine and there was nobody there. There was nobody watching the combine. Because there have been times in the past, USHL, our best league, our top league, was guilty of that when they started running their combines in Chicago early on. By the middle of the week, all the assistant coaches were out hungover at the bars or doing other things, and you got 2 guys in the stands when you started off the weekend with 25 guys. So these things have improved. They've gotten much better. So the question becomes, what's the best combine to go to? Oh, and besides those, so you got league sponsored, you got team or teams sponsored. Then you have private combines. You have combines from companies that have the reputation to bring in coaches from all over the place to watch you and their combine. Now, what's the difference between a combine and a showcase? Well, a showcase, for the most part, has teams that are put together prior to the weekend by individuals, and they run their team just like a regular team in the showcase. They have their own jerseys. They come and they maybe even practice before they get there, and then they run as a showcase team. And everybody, I think, is dealt with showcases. So we can separate those off to make sure everybody understands the difference between a showcase and a combine. Now, first of all, is there value in combines? It's what the beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Yes, there's value on both sides. My team will have people at every single combine that the league does, and then we'll have 2 of our own. We'll have one in Cleveland and one in Chicago, I believe. And we'll have most of our staff at both events. Why? Because there's value there. You look at our roster, just like most of the teams in the league, and you can see that almost every combine or pre-draft skate, they've got players that have ascended right onto the final roster and are playing. They didn't make it just the main camp, they're playing. So let's go through the process too, just to make sure you understand. And this is, let's start off with Tier 1, Tier 2. Tier 1, Tier 2, you've got these pre-draft skates. You've got these combines that happen at some point later in the early summer, late spring. There's drafts. The drafts happen. Both leagues have different types of drafts. The drafts are important. After the draft, you've got main camps. And the main camp is what all of this is culminating to. The pre-draft camps, the drafts themselves, the tenders, however you get in there, free agent, invited, however you get to that main camp, you get to the main camp. Once you're at that main camp, that's usually held sometime late July and August, mid-July to the first week in August. That main camp is to kind of drop the number down to a reasonable number. It could be 8 or 10 teams moving down to roughly 3 or 4 teams worth of players. 35 players, I guess, is a good number that starts the season when the team comes into training camp to start the year. So all this culminates to August, the end of August, September, when you show up for the training camp for the team. Now remember, even if you're at training camp, you're not guaranteeing anything yet, because you still have to make the roster. And some teams it's 30 to 35, some up to 40 kids are there in the fall. They're getting down to that 25-man roster, and that dwindles. It starts at 28 and 25, and then moves down from there. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense to you. Now, all this is important because you've got different ways to get the whole idea of these combines, these pre-draft skates, even showcases. They're all there to get you exposed to coaches and to get you looked at. Okay. So when people say, "Oh, these are cash cows," they're money grabs. Yeah. First of all, that's the same person that buys a new stick for their kid once a month, and you're spending $300 on a stick, and then you get a combine in front of junior coaches. And a lot of these junior coaches also have college coaches that come and watch their pre-drafts or watch their combines. So they'll invite other people to come along too. So it's usually you're getting more than a bang for your buck. And the multiple team combines, you're getting more eyes on you. If you go to a league sponsored combine, you're getting more eyes on you. You'll get more diversity from the private company because they probably have different coaches from different leagues coming in. And usually the private company combines tend to feature more tier 3 players, players that are heading off into the EHL, North American Hockey, or NA3HL, into the USPHL Premier, that level player. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that's where they focus on. So, yeah, I hope we're getting somewhere on this. I want to talk about the value. I want to talk about who should do it, who shouldn't. Okay. First of all, if you are already getting phone calls from coaches at the tier 1 level, USHL, you're getting phone calls from the North American Hockey League, or maybe even the BCHL too. If you're getting phone calls, not just one, but you're getting a few phone calls, the idea that you have to go to a pre-draft skate is probably, only if you want to, or only if you have the ability to want, or you specifically want one team to see you that has not called you yet. That would make sense. Okay. But if you're in the mix of getting phone calls and you've gone out and skated with a team, which U18 players right now are getting that ability to skate with teams to kind of, test the waters in the different leagues. And if that's already happening, really, you're on to the next step, because you're probably in you're in the window of a kid that could be drafted or tendered, or an invite. Now remember, right now I don't have the ability to show you my screen over here, but on my screen over here is my daytime job. This is a list of all the players I've been watching over the course of the year. There's over 300 kids I'm tracking right now. Now, some of those kids will be tenders. Some of those kids will be draft picks. And we still believe that there's probably going to be 2, 3, 4 kids that will end up on the roster that are not going to be tenders and they're not going to be draft picks. And the reason is because there's value in a tender and there's value in a draft pick for us to reach out to people that we don't have relationships with. If there's a kid that his older brother or his uncle or somebody else has a relationship with the coach because they played for one of our coaches before, and we say, we are going to take you, we want you. Well, to be honest with you, as long as there's trust on both ends, there's no need for a draft. There's no need for a tender if there's that trust. And that happens with just about every level of team. The old handshake comes out into play. Now, some people don't feel comfortable with that. And if they don't, that's where the tenders and the drafts come into play. So hopefully, that helps explain that. Show me in the comments where you want to talk about the whole process of these combines. Let's talk. We can talk about the numbers. We can talk about pricing. We can talk about, what other value you get out of them. Hey, getting a jersey in a combine and walking around with a jersey does you no good. Nobody cares if you got a USHL combine jersey on. Okay. I see 300, 400 of them at practices all the time, from everything from, AA kids on up. It doesn't mean a thing to see that if you're scouting or if you're a coach. What you're there to do is to impress coaches, to get an experience. Now, that's the other side of this. These pre-draft skates are great for younger players. If you're a 14 or 15-year-old, maybe not 14, 15, 16-year-old, these pre-draft skates are awesome, because now you can start seeing what a coach treats you like, how they act at the junior level, how professional they are. Frankly, you might see just the opposite. You might see how non-professional they are. So it's important to understand that there's another level past prep. There's another level past high school. There's another level past 16 and 18 when you get into the junior world. So I would highly recommend, for the experience part of it, that you attend those. And if you do get invited to a main camp, absolutely take advantage of that opportunity, because what a main camp will do for you was you get even more structure. You'll get even more ability to see what junior players do. Now, remember, you're going to have low-level junior players that are trying to ascend to the next level. You're going to have veterans out there. You're going to have free agent veterans that played on other teams or other leagues that are coming into camp too. That's a great experience for you, and those are really, really helpful. Pre-draft, showcase, or a main camp, those experiences, I believe, are really, really important. So, all right, let's see what questions we got coming up here. One is, if you skated at a U15 camp, should skater contact the coach and ask if they can have an invite? So, Melissa, I'm assuming you skated at a U15 camp. Are you talking about a national camp, or are you talking about a U15 camp for a specific team or specific league? Give me a little clarification on that. I'll be glad to try to help you on that one. I think the similar question is coming up here. Should the player reach out to coaches prior to attending pre-drafts? Absolutely. Listen, a third of my life is reading emails and researching players that reach out to us. And when I say that, and that's just not me, that's the coaching staff, that's the other people that are scouts in the field, that's myself. When we get an email, and this is, we're not the exception. It's the rule at most professionally run junior programs. Just like even the best D1 programs, if they get an email and they usually research it. Now, they might not research it right away. They might clump them up. But hey, I know players that I had in the past that had no business reaching out to Minnesota or North Dakota or some of these great D1 programs, and they got response. And in some cases, they even had people come out and watch them for maybe a shift or a period after they got there. But, they came out or they were in the building already, and they watched the player play. They reached out to me as a coach, and I do that all the time. Friday was my day this week to reach out to a lot of players that emailed or texted me or our organization, and I called their coach, I called their family advisor. Sometimes I reach out to the player themselves. That's usually the last thing I do, because I want to make sure the parents and the advisor know that it's not some creepy guy, that there's actually somebody in a position with a team that's reaching out to talk to the player. But that happens all the time. So yes, reach out. Yes, reach out. It should be very, very short. Here's who I am. Here's what I'm about. Age, size, team. You don't even really have to put stats anymore, because as soon as you get the name, as soon as your name pops up, the coach is going to two sources. He's going to Elite Prospects, or he's going to RinkNet. Elite Prospects is a public site. It has a paid site that you can pay $8 or $9 more a month for to get some bells and whistles. But you can look up a player and get very, very extensive information on him. Or you're going to RinkNet, which is used by probably 75% of the colleges, probably 80% of all junior programs use RinkNet. And that's where you can see scouting reports. You can see backdoor information. You can see about the advisor, who else the advisor covers. You can see anything you want to see about players, and you can share it with your staff. So you can put together reports from your whole organization, can see any notes that other scouts in our organization are putting on a kid. So, you don't have to put a bunch of information. Just say, I'm interested in your team. That's triggering it. Now, if you want to put a video clip on there, and what I would really suggest is that you put a link to your YouTube page. Don't try to put hard video in there and clog up somebody's hard drive. Put a link on there where they can click a link on your email that drops them over into a Facebook page that you set up specifically for some highlight reels. 30 seconds, 1 minute, 1 minute and a half is all you need on your video. Just enough to tempt them, just enough to whet the appetite. So absolutely reach out before, reach out during, reach out after, say thank you. All these things. It's remember, this is marketing 101. You're touching, you're trying to get your name out there. And this is going on all the way up through college. It goes on all the way up through pros. You want to get your name recognized. You want to get a message about yourself recognized. So not only do I want my name out there, Jeff Colson wants to play junior hockey. Okay, but then I want people to know Jeff Colson loves to stand in front of the net. He loves to take hits. He loves to score goals down low dirty. Okay, if I get that message out enough, what happens is it goes full circle. I might get that message out with my emails. My coach might start talking about me in those respects. My parents, when they're talking to other people, start using the same language. And then the circle comes around. There's nothing more fun in my life than when I hear about one of my players that I put a couple comments out about him with some very specific language. And then a year later, I'm talking to a college coach and he goes, "Oh yeah, I really like that kid." And boom, boom, boom. He says the 3 points that, I was really trying to push and, hone in on the kid to get him some exposure. And that's awesome because that means it worked. It means that other people started saying that. And you got to play to the bias. Remember, some coaches are lazy. Not saying they all are, but some are lazy. They hear somebody with a good reputation that knows how to look at players, and they hear what they say about a player. They just take that for gospel and run for it. So you absolutely can get your word out there as much as you need to. All right. So specific team, Melissa, you went to 3 camps. So before the combines, hey, look, once again, this is about branding. It's about exposure. It's trying to show desire. If you really want to play there and you think that that's a place that you can play at, I don't see any reason why you wouldn't want to go to that pre-draft, just to show that, hey, I'm here. I want to do this. There's a lot of players that the door opens from them out of just being, very, very persistent. All things are equal, and you got 4 or 5 guys that are, they're your borderline guys. And I have no idea, Melissa, if you're borderline or high or low on that. But if you got 5 guys out there that are all borderline, but one guy just keeps driving at you. He shows up at everything. He comes and watches games. He's sending an email to your coach all the time. He goes through your camps. Sometimes he just shows up and pops into the office because he's in the rink and says, "Hello, coach." That's the kid that gets the advantage because he's showing that he's going to do anything he can to make the team. So, okay, here's another one. Is it worth it for a player who is already playing Tier 3 trying to move up to go to a combine, or are they better off contacting coaches? I would say a third, maybe more. It depends on which combine you're talking about. At the USHL and the NOL level, maybe a third of the pre-draft combine kids, some cities it's different, are going to be kids from other junior leagues, from Tier 3 junior leagues. So no, that's absolutely where you want to showcase yourself and get on the door. Now, you can ask for a direct invite. You can work that angle too, and I would absolutely recommend that you take advantage of all avenues. Once again, you're looking to get yourself in the door for whatever it takes. And yes, there's a lot of junior players that use the pre-drafts to get them into the main camp to move on from there. Sometimes main camps are easy to get into. It just depends on what team and what league you're talking about. Some people have a hard time filling their main camps. So when you give them a call, they're like, "Sure, we need a warm body." And you click off the boxes. You've played junior hockey. You're above 5 feet tall, and you can put a coherent sentence together. Boom. Other leagues and other teams have a little bit more of a threshold to meet that's a little higher, and they may not just give that spot out to you because you call. So, but that's a great question. Thanks for the question. Let's see what this one. Should players do the pre-draft tourney in Boston and the Senior Chowder Cup? Absolutely. There's good events out there. I hate, you guys know this. I hate to, try to send you to all one place and say that's the only place to go, because there's good events in Detroit. There's good events in Colorado. There's a good event in Nashville or Memphis. One of the Tennessee areas have a really nice event too. So, but yes, those are traditional good events. You go out to the pre-draft, you're going to run into people that are in the business that are running these teams. When I say they're in the business, a lot of these pre-draft teams are the people running them, managing the teams are general managers for a NOL team, or they're the chief scout for a BCHL team, or they're an assistant coach in the NOL. They're all tied in some way, not all, but most of them are tied. So it's not only a matter of going to those events, but it's networking with your coach and asking your coach if there's anybody there that you should meet while you're there. Most of these guys get it. They understand what this is all about. And if there's somebody they can introduce you to, if there's somebody they can make a phone call to help you, they're going to do it. So, yeah, absolutely. Those are good events. Your thoughts on the Ivy League shootout? Let's leave that one for another one. I'll be glad to give you my opinion on it, but I don't want to get off topic right now. Okay. Let's go back to that one. So, yeah, I took that the wrong way. I thought you were talking about just shootouts in general in the Ivy League. You're talking about a showcase event. Okay, so there's a different type of showcase event. And there's showcases now that have developed, and I was going to save this for a few minutes later, but let's jump into it now. They're the college showcases. So now college leagues, and usually not leagues, it's a couple teams, and they're usually entrepreneurial coaches that get 2 or 3 other coaches or the whole group of coaches inside of their league, and they put a showcase on. It's legal to do this, and there's certain parameters they have to meet as far as it has to be open to any athlete. They can't just do a closed door event. And so there's that kind of showcase at the college level. Then there's the individual team. For example, over the years, just some teams I know Harvard's done individual team showcases. I know Niagara does an individual, Air Force does one. You've got programs all over the nation that do these showcases. You get invited by the team, and if you look at the fine print somewhere on their AD's page for summer camps, the camp will be listed in really small fine print because, they're not looking for the public there. They want mostly people that they're recruiting and they think have the ability to make the team, or they're local kids where they're trying to give back to the community and get some of the midget kids out from the travel teams to skate with their team and do some goodwill with the community. But these showcases are valid. Most of the time, there's going to be multiple kids that come out of those showcases and make the team or get offered from that team. There's never been one of these college showcases for the individual teams that I've been around, and I've only probably been around 15 or 20 of them. It's not like I go to these things all the time. But talking to the college coaches and knowing what's going on and having a little bit of a background insight on some of these, there's usually virtually all the time you're going to find players that are going to get offered out of those. So yes, those kind of showcases or summer skates with a college team that are invites, but it's winking and nod on the invite. They're not advertised anywhere usually. Those are usually pretty good events, and you'll get to meet some people, and you'll get to usually get a tour of the campus. You get a tour of the locker room. You get a chance to meet with the head coach. Usually they're pretty good events. So I don't dissuade you from following up on any of those kind of things. Sorry that I misread your question on that. All right, let's see what else we got here. How do you prioritize main camps if you have multiple invites? That's a great question. First is reality. Okay, if I'm coming out of U18 hockey and I know I've got a good sense of where I fit in the U18 world. Let's say I'm playing in the Tier 1 Elite League, and I know where I fit. I'm a top third, but I'm not a top 10% kid at that level. And I get a USHL tryout or main camp. Tryout's not the right word. Why did I say that? I get a main camp invite from a USHL team, and at the same weekend, I get an invite to a North American Hockey League team. What's the reality of me making a USHL team as an undrafted, untendered player? I can tell you the odds are a lot less of making that team versus making an all team. Now, if it's between an all team and an NCDC team, same thing. Where are the odds that you're going to make a team? So not only now, if they're equal in the same league, then it becomes the priority of, doing your homework, pulling up elite prospects, seeing how many players they had from last year, looking at their draft list to see what kind of players they drafted, and seeing anything you can look at. Most teams post their tenders on their social media as they click through. So anytime between November and the time of that main camp, I'd be checking their social media to see, and the number could be anywhere from 5 to 10 players that get tendered. I'd be looking at that list too to see who got tendered. And then you just do your homework. You have to really kind of look at the situation and say, am I good enough for that league? And that's where you got to be honest. You just got to be honest with yourself and say, you know what? Nobody else in my situation has ever made that USHL team in that situation. Most likely they're letting me come here because, I'm good enough to be at their camp. And most likely it's not something, the downside of not going to that is getting exposed to those coaches so that if you have a blowout year and you just tear it up that year, that they don't invite you back the next year. So, but for the most part, you got to dial it down to, if all things are equal, go to the team you want to play for that has the most opportunity. And this is where homework has to be done. You have to look at the back end. There's nothing wrong with you either saying, Coach, I see you invited me to your main camp. can you tell me how many openings you have right now for that position? And most coaches have exactly what I've got over here. They've got a ghost list of the next year and the projections of who's returning, who's tendered, who's going to be drafted, and where the gaps are at. So most teams can actually do the homework for you and tell you right up front exactly where you're going to fit. So hopefully that helps a little bit on that one. That's a great question. Let's see. Okay, Amherst, Mass. Can't wait to. Hopefully, I replied to it because a lot of these just show up as Facebook, so I don't know who they're coming in from. Is there a way to find out who will be at a combine like the NAHL combines, so your kid can reach out to them? Those are tough. The league combines are tough to reach out to people, but the way you do that is you actually if you sign up for a league combine. Let's say I sign up for an NCDC combine. I sign up for a USHL. North American Hockey League Combine. I know what dates it's going to be there. I fire out an email to all the different teams maybe all the teams in the league saying, hey, I'm signed up for this. Here's my information. Boom, 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 boom. Now, once again, you send that email in and you're a left-handed forward with 1 year of experience at U18. And I go, oh man, we're still looking for that kind of player. Okay, I better look at his elite prospects. Boom, you've won a little battle there without even knowing about it. So yes, you don't need to know who's going to be there. Just blanket whoever you're interested in that league and send information out to them. And remember, it's the best way to handle different teams that work differently. Whoever's listed on their website that's in a position, coach, assistant coach, GM, player development manager, director, and scout, those are all viable and they're all working together, but they keep their own lists. So you don't want to just send an email to one, make sure you hit them all because it's important to hit them all so that they all, one guy might be looking just at D, one guy might be looking just at forwards. Clearly there's people that only look at goalies. You need to make sure you just hit them all so that you got yourself protected. Hopefully that works and hopefully that piece of advice helps you a little bit. All right, folks, what do you think so far? What do we got on time? We're rolling in with about 5 minutes left. Any other questions on the topic? Any other questions about combines? Now, before it becomes an issue, once again, I disclose to you that I work in the industry. I don't do this to solicit players. If you are interested in our team, I would suggest you go through the front door and not try to backdoor things. Use my email off of our team website and just email me if you're interested in our pre-draft combines. I want to keep this, I want to keep this hat over here and I want to keep that hat over there. So if you are planning on doing our pre-drafts or you're invited to our pre-draft or you want to get invited, please go through the front door. It's very, very difficult for me to try to deal with hundreds of people on this platform. Please please keep them separate for me. Do me that one favor if you could. Okay. How long does a USHL team own your rights if you were drafted previously? Well, if you were drafted and you did not make the roster and you are not on the roster, you no longer are under the rights of that team. So in other words, you go into main camp. Really what a draft does is get you into the main camp. Now from there, if you progress into the fall with a team, they still have your rights. But as soon as they set their roster, if you're not on that roster, you're a free agent. You're able to go wherever you want to go, even inside the USHL. So the day that they finalize their roster or even trim down the summer roster to 30 or 35, whatever the number is for the USHL coming out of main camp, they got to have their summer roster. Let's say that number is 30. And I'm making that number up. It could be 35. But let's say that number is 30 and you're not on that list of 30. You are a free agent at that point. You can reach out to other teams. You can be calling around trying to figure out where you want to go. Now, if they keep you on the roster into the fall and you're on that protected list, then you're under their guise until they tell you you're not. So, in other words, even though you're rostered, you could be sitting in the stands. You could be player number 23 on the roster and not be on the 21 that are on the ice in games. So, but if you don't make the protected roster, you are a free agent at that point. You can move on. So hopefully that helps. Let's see what else we got here. Does each league have different dates for setting roster? Yes, your Canadian, your CJHL and the BCHL run on autonomous dates. I'll throw those dates up on my junior hockey advisor page, not the discussion group. I'll throw them on the page. USHL goes first. Then you'll get the North American Hockey League second. They're all fairly close to each other. The reason they go in descending order is because USHL, let's say they trim their roster, those players are going to usually filter down into one of two places. They're going to filter down into, with USHL, because some of the kids are younger, they could go back to U18, or they're going to go North American Hockey League, or they're going to go to the BCHL. So then the North American Hockey League has their roster cutoff dates and their roster freeze dates. Then those players will trickle down into the other leagues, the NCDCs, the EHLs, your USPHLs, your NA3HLs. So then they'll have their dates after that. So yes, they all come in a sequential order. So hopefully that helps you a little bit. Do you prefer to hear directly from a kid or the advisor? Listen, when you're doing this, you're going to hear from coaches, you're going to hear from kids, you're going to hear from advisors, and you're going to hear from other junior coaches. Really, you try to triangulate the information. So let's say a kid reaches out to me with an email that sparks interest. I'm immediately trying to triangulate that with an advisor. If he's got an advisor, a lot of times they don't. Then I'm looking at coaches. And then I'm looking at rival coaches, and I'm trying to put a picture together on the player. I'm going to Elite Prospects. I'm grabbing data. I'm going to Instat. I'm trying to watch some film and grab film on the kid if there's interest there. So it doesn't really matter, how, because we're not at the point of building a relationship and seeing what kind of person that kid is first. We're looking at skill level first. And then if he meets the check marks on all the skills that we're looking for, then we get into delving deeper into the process. So this isn't about, everybody does it different. I'll give you my way of doing it. I'll go out, and if I'm scouting, I go out and watch kids play. I'll watch a kid play 3, 4, 5, 6 times before I even talk to the coach. And if I know the coach and he knows I'm in the stands, I'll probably reach out and say, hey, just looking in general, not here to pick a player yet, And a lot of times they start pushing names at me, but remember, they've all got agendas too, and we'll talk about that bias in another time. But coaches, and usually they want to click off the top of the roster to use that to build momentum. And maybe I'm looking at the kid 3, 4, 5, or 6 down because he fits a role for me. I don't want the person that he's pushing. I want to, I'm really delving into the kid that I want. Once I get past that, then I'll reach out to the coach, talk to the coach, get the coach's feelings. Then I'll reach out to player, do an introduction meeting with the player, usually right at the rink. If his parents are there, maybe introduce myself to the parents too. Everything's going good. Maybe I have a couple texts, a couple more phone calls with the player. At that point, I'm introducing other people from our staff to watch him, to get other eyes on him, to gather information. Then we're turning around and doing a Zoom with the family. We're having the family, mom, dad, and the player, and we'll talk to them. While all this is going on, if there's an advisor in the picture, I'm keeping the advisor informed of what's going on. Then, after all that happens, we're going to get the kid down and invite him down for a skate, get him down to, be in the environment, see how he fits into the environment, see how the other players interact with him. Is he over his head? Is he overwhelmed? How are things going? At that point, every single day, he's meeting with the coaching staff at the end of the day. And then at the end of the week, we're evaluating him. May not make a decision on a player after they come down to skate with us on the spot, but they'll know exactly where they fit and what we're looking for out of them. So that's the process. Now, everybody does it a little bit differently. That's our process. Other teams, they've got people in the field that, carry a tender with them right on the spot. And the first time they meet a player, they're trying to sign them. And, we just don't do it that way. But anyway, hopefully that helps a little bit. But no, it's not a problem at all to hear directly from a player. Let's leave this in the last one. Probably a little early for this group, but what's your best advice for a 13-year-old with a ton of drive and potential whose parents can't afford the time and money for a Tier 1 program. Well, that's huge. And I can tell you right now, there's 3 or 4 players I can think of. You can think of Ryan Callahan right off the bat. Parents could not afford Tier 1 hockey. At some point, if there's a drive and there's talent there, there's going to have to be some kind of sacrifice or something additional. Players work part-time jobs in the summer to play hockey. Now, not as much as they used to, but in my day, every player, except for a couple kids on the team, that their families came off from a little bit more money. But in my area, it was very common that you worked all summer to pay for your hockey. And you get a little older, there's opportunities to move into juniors that are paid hockey. But that gap from 13 to maybe 17, there's no way to get around it. There's going to have to be some sacrifices. I brought up Ryan Callahan, and I'm not proposing this happens, but the dad mortgaged the house to keep him in hockey. And that was early on. That was not, right before he went to the OHL. This is several years before he was at that age. And I can tell you numerous stories like that. I say that one because it's public knowledge. That's not a private story. But there's numerous situations where families have to make sacrifices above and beyond. Do I like to say that? No, but that's part of the choices that we have to make on these situations. And you're not too young to have that conversation, but that also could be the tipping point. I would say that 30, 40, 50% of the time, the reason players don't ascend to the next level, even if they're 13 to 14, is because of family issues, meaning there's too many brothers and sisters that are participating in other events. The family just can't, the time commitment, the family commitment. I had a wonderful player years ago that declined to move on to a full ride in college because no program had the degree that person was looking for. And the only school that had the degree was a non-hockey, well, it was a hockey school, but it had not offered her, and she ended up playing club hockey. D1 talent all the way through, decided to go a different route because the family had, and mom and dad were adamant, we want to see you in this degree program. And it was a highly technical degree. I've seen other people because, of money. I've seen it because of academics where they just decided, this is too much time. And there's a myriad of reasons why not. And none of them are bad, but that's the part of this, and it's no different than anything else in life. There's got to be a point where, or there doesn't have to be a point, but there are many, many situations you're not alone in this. There's sacrifices that have to be made. Now, with that said, I would never, ever tell you to turn around without asking for help in some ways. I was a president of a youth organization for years, and almost every situation where a family that truly could not afford the next level of hockey, when they reached out to me, we found either a angel to help them. We found gear. We found teams that we worked out a deal with where the league actually supplemented. We had grants. We had scholarships. We found different money to try to help them, either from our local organization, from the local community. We found businesses that would help sometimes. I would never give up on the situation if it's a fiscal issue, because there's always the ways to get around that. Usually the ones that are hardest to get around is if there's 4 or 5 other kids in the family and you're not really able to support, travel hockey in your family in that situation. So not always the answer you want, but that's the way I see things. Folks, if you like this, please do me a couple things. One is make sure you're on our discussion group, junior hockey advisor discussion. Jump on, be interactive, ask questions, comment, help other people. I talk all the time, but you've got a lot of knowledge and you can help people on that discussion group too. Please get involved with that. Sign up today if you can for that. Like our junior hockey discussion, our page itself, the Junior Hockey Advisor page. If you could just go on there and like and follow that, that'd be huge. And go to our YouTube page. There's tons of video on there. What I don't understand is I just put out this 1-minute video last week. There was one that anybody in person, when I show them that, little technique on how to find a depth chart out for college. So even if I'm 15 or 16 years old, I can look at a depth chart and see how many players are already committing at 15 or 16 for college. Nowadays it's more like 17, but I showed you a trick to get to depth. Not you. I'm not chastising this group, but as overall, there's only a few people that have watched it, maybe 300 or 400. I thought we were going to get 5,000, 6,000 people watching the video. It's only 1 or 2 minutes. It's a quick, easy trick on how to use elite prospects and get the college depth charts. So it shows their roster by year, and it shows you the next 2 or 3 years of the kids coming in, how many defensemen they got for 2022, 2023, 2024. Please jump on YouTube, look at that video. It's worth it. It's on both of the Junior Hockey Advisor Facebook pages too. Besides that, folks, have a great night. I'll be glad to try to answer anything else. If I didn't get you, I'll get to it next week, or you can DM me your question. And take care, folks. We'll see you next week.